Books, documents, fabrics, antique cutleries, ceramics, as well as wood and glass products for many are priceless as they tell the country's history and cultural heritage. For the third year in a row, the Museum of Belize has organized a national workshop on the preservation of invaluable collections. The two-day seminar brought together key professionals from across the country.
This year, the workshop is focusing on disaster preparedness, prevention, and as well as recovery of your collections. When I say collections, I mean any objects that are collected for their historical or cultural value. We have persons here from small museums, from the library service, from the Belize archives, and each person's collections is different. Some of them have collections of old documents, some have collections of cultural implements and ceramics or family heirlooms. The main idea here today is to protect your collections from disasters, whether it be hurricanes, floods, or fires.
With the assistance from the Science Museum of Minnesota, the participants will return to their respective organizations and implement safety measures for disaster and how to recover any collection that may have been damaged during a natural phenomenon.
To understand how a disaster may impact their collection and their institution, and plan for it, prepare for it, and then be able to respond. If you have the plan and the preparation in place, then when the disaster happens, you can just jump right in and recover from it.
What are some of the key things that they need to have or... Yeah.
So they need to plan ahead. So they need to make sure that their building and their facility is in good condition. So part of planning for a disaster is making sure that your roof doesn't leak, for example, because you don't find that out until you have a storm. Understanding what the materials are made of and how they're going to respond to a fire or to a flood or to a hurricane, and then learning how to handle them very carefully and dry them and recover them in the future. So you may need to take a book, for example, if it gets completely wet. The paper is very fragile. It may get moldy very quickly because it's very humid here, so wrapping that in some butcher paper or some waxed paper and freezing it until you can treat it in the future is probably the best option.
The workshop was an excellent opportunity for some professionals in the local field to share experiences and coping methods in disaster management as it relates to collectibles of various materials.
We, for example, have a fairly new renovated building in relation to the archives, and museums and libraries, what we do is we share our knowledge in how you go about preparing. So we're not just keeping the information for ourselves, but we've been having a networking of that information. Not all information has been digitized. We still have, most of the collection is still on paper at the archives, at the libraries, information at the museums. There's still artifacts on display. They are being prepared in catalogs for the different institutions, and there are different ways of how you go about preserving that information, being digital or paper-wise.
During today's session, a simulation was conducted at the House of Culture in Belize City, where the participants recovered damaged items.
There has to be communication, there has to be rapid assessment after that response, basic know-how and understanding of what is assigned to whom and who will function as whom. From the very policemen we are roping in, because we have to avoid looting and preservation of our grounds and our found objects. And then we have to record, because before we start moving anything or interfacing with anything, it's important that we document. You might see your photographs and your books, your picture albums, damaged in the aftermath of a storm. Your first thing is to go and rush and grab them. But we've learned that sometimes you have to leave them for up to 48 hours. Of course, in all this, you prioritize. You look at your wood, your ceramics, your metals, your paper. You have to see by way of what's delicate and how you proceed.
Duane, Moody for News 5.